Every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. He's the creator and chief architect of the Job Passion Type Indicator, none other than Mr. Ken Stevens.
Daniel, thank you for having
Welcome.
me. I privileged to be here.
Welcome, Mr. Ken on Abstract Outside. And can you please introduce more about yourself with that kindness?
Well, as you mentioned, my name is Ken Stevens. I'm on a personal mission to help 1 million people get unstuck from jobs they don't enjoy and find work that fuels their passion and inspires their purpose. And as you mentioned, I created an assessment called the Job Passion Type Indicator, or the JPTI assessment for short. Other assessments will measure your personality traits or your behavior styles or your natural strengths, but I created the Job Passion Type Indicator to kind of fill a gap that existed, and that is that there's nothing out there that tells you what you actually enjoy doing. And so I created it to not only determine what you enjoy doing, what you're naturally wired to feel enthusiastic about doing, and what naturally energizes you, but also it's based on your values, and your values really define who you truly are.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Ken. Thank you for your legacy to the world. And today let's talk about culture fits is vague, values fit is measurable. Stop guessing a practical way to define values alignment that actually predicts retention and employee engagement. So tell us, Mr. You spent 16 years as a Fortune 500 marketing executive, climbing the ladder only to discover that skill driving your promotions had nothing to do with the work you were passionate about. Was that the moment you realized culture fit was the hollow concept, or what did you learn about difference between fitting and the actually thriving?
Well, it's interesting. You just brought up the background. It's really the genesis of the creation of this whole assessment, and it was really, I was 34 years old. I was vice president in a global corporation, in charge of client services. It's one of the world's largest advertising agencies. People would have lined up around the block 3 times for the job that I had. It was such a good job, and I woke up one morning and I just couldn't get myself out of bed because I just had gotten to the point where I disliked my job so much, and when I started to think about it, I realized that it was no longer a good fit for me. I mean, it didn't fit with my values, which I didn't understand at the time, and I didn't enjoy any of the work that I was doing, and I didn't understand why. And that's what started me thinking that I really should be feeling passionate about the work I'm doing, but I had no idea what my passions were. So uh, and I found out later that 80% of the people that I've spoken to since don't really know what their passions are either. And it's unfortunate. They just show up at work, they do their job. So, like I say, the genesis of this for me was realizing that, just because I was successful in my job, I wasn't enjoying my job, and that wasn't very fulfilling. And so that's why I just started to. That's why I just started to research, and as you say, it was 16 years that I spent trying to figure this out, what my passion was, and then reverse engineering everything to finally create an assessment so other people could do it too.
Very well said. Mr. Khan, your 40s framework start with the truth, identifying core values before considering roles. Why do you believe values must come first? And what happens when organizations assess fit without understanding an individual's foundational values?
Well, it's interesting. Values, as you say, I call them truths because they define who you truly are, right? They're subconsciously what's driving the decisions and the actions that you take in your life. And we don't think about them. It all happens on a subconscious level. And there's no, right or wrong values. It's just what's defining you, what's important to you, and how you want to live your life. So let's take, for example, some very simple ones. Let's say, for example, you value precision, for example. So if you like things always to be precise and accurate, you would not feel comfortable in an environment where nobody cares about quality and they let work go out the door that's just, you know, mediocre at best. So that there's an example of having a value that's in conflict with maybe what your company's values are. Okay, let's say you have a value of honesty, and you have a company that basically is very dishonest about their sales practices. Then you would feel not very comfortable at all working in that environment. You would have a conflict, and you wouldn't necessarily consciously understand why you felt uneasy in that environment, but it's because there is a conflict with the way you're wired with your values. And so that's why I say it's important first to understand your values. And that's also why the 21 job passion types that are defined by the job passion type indicator, they're all defined by a set of values. Each one is a set of values that describes that passion type. I liken it to like the wooden tiles of a Scrabble game where the wooden tiles each have letters on them. But in the case of defining your job passion types, it's the values that are on each one of those tiles. And it's the combination of values that determines your job passion type.
Very well said, Mr. Ken. You said just because someone excels at something doesn't mean they enjoy it. How does this distinction between competence and passion play out retention? Are employees who are competent but misaligned more likely to stay or more likely burn out and leave?
Yeah, actually, that's exactly, by the way, how I discovered that whole thing, and that is that the day I couldn't go to work because I was just so overwhelmed with the fact that I didn't enjoy my job anymore. It took me like 2 days of introspective of thinking to figure it out. And what I realized is that I kept getting promoted for things I was very good at doing. And think about it. This happens to everyone. I call it the job dissatisfaction sequence. Let's think. We get out of school, university, whatever. We start our first job. Our bosses notice what we're very good at doing, and we get promoted based on what we excel at doing. Okay, then we get promoted to another position. We learn some more things. We get good at doing more things, and before you know it, all the things you've been good at doing are what's moving you up the corporate ladder. When you decide to move jobs, you write a resume and you leverage all those strengths, all those things that you're really good at doing. And sooner or later, though, you get to a job like I did in that position where I was as a vice president, having been promoted all the way up the line and not enjoying my job. And why was that? Because I realized that 80% of the things that I was doing, I was very good at doing, but I did not enjoy doing any of them. So there is no correlation between job excellence, what you can excel in doing your job because of your skill set or your personality traits, your behavior styles, your natural strengths. There's no correlation between that and whether or not you actually enjoy the work that you're doing. And if you don't enjoy the work that you're doing, you're going to start to burn out. You're going to start to disengage. Okay. And you're not going to be very productive in the workforce. And so that means you're probably going to want to leave your job, and that's why it affects employee retention. And like I say, you're not going to be productive. So it also affects revenue and productivity for corporations because their teams are not being as productive as they should be. In fact, globally, there's a study that's done by Gallup almost every year. It's the global workplace study, and what they found is that in the latest study, which was released last year, they found that 21% of the people, only 21% of the people are in worldwide, in the workforce worldwide, only 21% of the people are actually enjoying their jobs. They're actually engaged with their jobs. The rest of them are either disengaged or just at best going through the motions, just showing up every day, punching the time clock and going home and not putting in any extra effort because they're just going through the motions. They don't love their job. They don't passionately engage with their job.
Mr. Ken, you developed the dream job type indicator over 16 years of research. What was the hardest part of making something as subjective as passion or values measurable and repeatable?
Uh,
Mhm.
you're right. That's why it took 16 years, because it took a long time to, first of all, figure out what values were important to measure, and 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 also to figure out what those job passion types should be. When I first started, there were 34 job passion types, and through constant refinement, I've gotten it down to what I think is the ultimate, which is 21. And it took a while to really fine tune which values most accurately define each job passion type. As I say, there's a set of values that define each set, and it took constant tweaking and testing and refinement to get it to the point where it was very predictable. And that's why it took 16 years. And the job passion type indicator is the next version of the dream job type indicator that you just spoke about.
The DJTI identifies 21 distinct dream job types organized within a proprietary 4TS framework. Can you walk us through an example of two people who might have similar skills and personality but completely different workflow process that energize them?
Well, so okay, so here's a probably a good way to explain this. Let's say you've got two people um, that are in finance. Okay, so they should be they're very good with numbers. They're very good with numbers. Um, they've excelled at it. They've gotten promoted all the way through the corporate world to higher positions now, overseeing other people in finance. But they're not. One of them is really happy with the work that he's doing, and that's because he will probably have a job passion type of analyzing or calculating. Numbers for him or her would be, something they absolutely love doing. They could put a cup of coffee down and start working, and an hour later look up and see that they haven't even taken a sip of their coffee yet, because they got so passionately engaged in analyzing the numbers and calculating with the numbers and interpreting the numbers. Another person, myself, a classic example, okay, I happen to be very good at numbers, okay. uh, really good at analyzing things. That's one of the things I kept getting promoted for. I have a very analytical mind. I can interpret numbers very well. I even had to, as part of business school, I had to take bookkeeping and accounting and all that. And I got the highest mark. I got the highest mark in that. So I obviously have a skill for it. I obviously have an aptitude to work with numbers. But I do not like numbers at all. I like words. I like working with words, but I don't like working with numbers. So if the two people that are working in finance are working on the same project, the one that's passionately engaged with analyzing and calculating is going to be far more productive and get the job done far faster, and probably get it done in better quality than someone like me who, while good at doing it, wouldn't be passionately engaged and wouldn't be giving it my best.
Very well said. Mr. Khan, Gallup data shows only 21% of employees worldwide are engaged. You've called this a crisis of misalignment. For employees' perspective, what is the cultural cost hiring someone who fits the culture but whose values don't align with the work itself?
I'm sorry, I missed. I didn't hear the whole question. Can you repeat that, please?
Yes, a Gallup data shows only 21% of employees worldwide are engaged. You've called this a crisis of misalignment. For an employer's perspective, what is the actual cost of hiring someone who fits the culture but whose values don't align with the work itself?
Actually, I would argue that the the cost is the fact that, because the employee's values don't align with the work, It's more like the employee's values don't align with the company's values. Okay. So in other words, if the culture fit is all about, getting the right people, sitting on a bus that they want to be on, right? And going to a destination where they all want to go. So you would hope that someone would have gotten into the job knowing that their values align with the company's values. Okay, and therefore I'm not sure that they'd really get into a situation where they would then discover that the work they were doing didn't align with their values. So I think getting back to your question about the corporate cost of someone who is doing a job or is working in an environment that's in conflict with their personal values, and they may not consciously recognize it right away, um, that person will start to feel stress. They'll start to feel anxiety. They will be less productive. They won't be engaging in team conversations and discussions as much as the company would hope for in order to ensure timely completion of projects and high quality input. So that the cost of the company of poor alignment is that disengagement factor.
So, Mr. Ken, Careers Group acquired your assets specifically to help employers reduce costly mishires and improve retention. How do you counsel an HR leader to use values data in hiring without falling into discrimination or bias traps?
The assessment itself is not used as a screening criteria in any way, shape, or form that is in conflict with employee regulations or laws or legislation. Okay, it is simply measuring a person's natural abilities, and it's not judging them at all. So it doesn't measure anything that, number one, would be illegal for, to use that word, to measure. Um, and but what it does do is it helps both employers and employees see where there is a good fit. And that's the objection of everything we're trying to do at Careers Group, is we're trying to ensure best fit for both the employee and for both the employer. So if we could, for example, uh, you know, measuring values is important because it says, okay, this person values what we're looking for in the organization. They value what we're doing. They value our mission. They value how we approach doing business. Um, that's that's not discriminatory. That's simply saying, just like we value somebody who happens to have a skill set with numbers. Okay, it's not discriminatory at all. It's just that's just makes them a better candidate for the job. So it's not discriminatory. It just helps people determine best fit.
Hmm. The best fit indeed. So, Mr. Ken, you climbed the corporate ladder successfully before realizing you were misaligned. Do you have any regret about the years you spent in roles that didn't energize you, or you didn't see the experience as essential to building the DGTI?
If I had to go back and do it all over again,
Hmm.
I would have spent all those years in my corporate life differently than I did. Okay. Um, in fact, this is why I'm on a mission to help other people do this. I want to help them avoid what I went through. I mean, it's all those wasted years really of doing work that I didn't enjoy. I got no fulfillment from that work. But I don't regret it because it was the catalyst for what I do now. And I really enjoy the work that I do now, which is helping people, find work that fuels their passion and inspires their purpose. So it was, I think, just a necessary phase I had to go through. in order to get to where I am enjoying my life today.
Well, Mr. Ken, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and my book 101 review in sixth season too, comedy 104 season, and sixth season as well. Geography 101, love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 are in fifth season, Science 101, Sex 101 in its fourth season, and my baby podcast 3B 101, Motivation 101, Spiritual Awakening 101, Entrepreneurship 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Coaching 101, and of course, my Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Ken, if you could whisper one truth into ear of every HR leader, hiring manager, and job seeker about the difference between vague culture fit and measurable values fit, what would that be, and what would be the truth be like?
I think the important thing is for them to understand that that skills alone, personality fit, behavior style fit, natural strengths alone, only help them determine whether or not a person will excel at doing the job that they have open. It will not ensure that they will passionately engage and be enthusiastic and put in extra effort to really excel and want to remain in the company instead of leave.
Very well said, Mr. Ken. And so, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, if they want to learn more about the John Passion Type Indicator and how we help both companies or individuals ensure a good fit between values, culture, and passion, I invite them to go to careersgroup.com. And that's careers with a Z, not an S. And there's the resources tab that you can see right at the top of the page. And there's all kinds of helpful information there to help you find a job that fuels your passion and inspires your group.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Ken Steven because he's supporting for more and more empowering career will right. Mr. Ken, thank you so much for your time.
Daniel, thank you so much for inviting me, and I hope I shared something that was of value to your audience today.
Definitely. Thank you for your legacy to the world. Keep up the good work because you're doing the right thing. So, Mr. Ken, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you again, Daniel. Bye for now.
More to come, people. See you soon.